In this video, I'm going to show you how to remove and replace your starter on a Chevy Malibu located on the back side of the engine, closer to the firewall, under the intake. Remove your negative battery cable. That's going to be a 10mm wrench or socket. Just take that nut off, loosen it up, wiggle it a little bit, see if you can pull it up. Make sure you set it aside so it does not reconnect and ground out during your service. Starter bracket is right here at the back part of the starter. There is a bolt to the block and one going into the starter. I'm going to loosen up the one to the block. That's a 15mm socket or wrench. I just want to loosen enough so that bracket can spin so I can get that starter out freely. You know, you can remove it fully or just get it out of the way. I'm going to loosen that up good. Now with a 13mm socket, I'm going to take the bolt completely out of that starter that goes to the bracket. I'm going to go ahead and remove that bolt completely and let that bracket just kind of swing out of the way. The starter has two mounting spots. It has a nut up here to a stud and then a bolt down on the bottom. They're both 15mm socket or wrench. And we're going to do the nut first, just a little bit to loosen it up. I put an extension on and I just want to break that nut free. It's kind of a tight spot, but if we can break it free, that's great. Now I'm just going to move on right down to the bolt, and I'll take this bolt completely out. Take that right out and just set it aside. So the nut came out with a stud. It's not a problem. It's just a starter. All right, so now the starter is dismounted from the bell housing. We're just going to grab it firmly and wiggle back and forth. I want to try to expose those solenoid wires and the battery positive wire so you can see it. So now at the solenoid part, we're going to disconnect that positive battery cable right here. And the nut on the solenoid is a 13mm. So I'm going to use a socket and loosen this right out. And as you can see, the solenoid wire to the ignition is a clip-on, but I think once I get this positive wire off, I can move the starter easier to see. That's why I dismounted it first. Sometimes you can disconnect the wires before you dismount it, but on this case I couldn't see. So I was trying to see if I could get more throw out of it. There we go. I always take the nut and put it back on just so I don't lose it in case I need it. I'll get that bracket a little bit out of the way. Now let's see how much throw we have. Not that much, but I can see the actual solenoid wire better. That's the yellow one. So you see that red clip? We got to push that out. It's a lock tab. So with a small screwdriver, you're going to want to pry that out. And then once it's out of the way, I'm going to push down right there. I don't know if you can see it. The little black end piece, push down and pull. Just like that. Now we're ready to get the starter out. So now the starter is dismounted completely from everything. Let's just grab it and pull it right out. I'm going to go down below here to the carport section underneath the axle. So this is the nut and stud that held the top part of that starter in. And like I said, it came out in one piece. I'm going to put it in separately. I want to put that stud and bottom it out nice and tight so when I torque that nut, there's no compromise. So 15mm wrench, and the hex part of that stud is a 7mm. So if you have a socket or a wrench, and then just slowly turn that stud right out. There we go. Luckily mine wasn't frozen. Now I'm going to take that stud by itself with the 7mm socket and put it back in the block. Now I'm going to take that stud, mount it in the top mounting hole, start it by hand. You can see that spacer right here. That is where it's going to stop and bottom out against the bell housing or the actual engine block as far as I can with my hand. And there we go. Now I'm going to take my 7mm socket and bottom it out. Now it doesn't have to be torqued, it just has to be really tight because the nut will be torquing. There we go. Now grab your starter, bring it back up between the axle and the frame. I'm going to mount it, bring it right up in there. Try to line that mounting bolt up. The top hole. There we go. Now I'm going to put that bottom bolt in. I'm just going to start it by hand. Kind of gives it less wobble, less moving around. We'll take our top nut, put that on the stud. Let's put our wire back on that stud. Now I'm going to take my 15mm socket and I'm going to just snug up both mounting bolts. Yeah, like I said, I'm just snugging it, and we'll do the bottom one. I'm going to get the back bolt for that bracket. I want to line that up while everything's not torqued. Perfect. Start it right by hand. At least get it started. Snug that bolt up to the block. All right, now we're ready to torque everything up, and then we'll put our wires on last. So the nut and the actual bolt, mounting bolt, torque spec is 43 foot-pounds. So take our 15mm socket, get it on there, and let's tighten this up to 43 foot-pounds. So the mounting bolt to the block with that bracket is 43 foot-pounds, and that is a 15mm socket. So let's tighten that one up. And then the 13mm socket one going to the starter is only 16 foot-pounds. So 13mm socket, and we will snug this to 16 foot-pounds. Let's move on to the cables. Now I'm going to put the solenoid wire back on that starter solenoid and just push it down. Hear it click, and then take that red tab, push it until it locks. Now we have our cable already on, the positive cable on the starter solenoid. I'm going to take that nut and restart it. Bring it all the way down. Now this actually has a torque spec. Some people over tighten these and break the actual copper on the inside of that solenoid. So it's smart to kind of do it the right way, so you don't have to do it twice. So a 13mm wrench or socket. I'm going to just snug it so I don't have to spend so much time with the torque wrench. Right there, because the torque is only 115 inch-pounds. So now let's get our 13mm socket and go ahead and torque it up. Now you can connect your negative battery terminal, hook it up. Make sure that terminal sits all the way down on that post. You don't want it sitting up. It was wrong when I disconnected it. It was sitting up too high. So if you have a terminal spreader, that's great. If you don't, I have enough space here to get a flathead screwdriver in there and open that up. So I'm just going to give it a little lift like this and help it. That's probably why it wasn't done in the first place the correct way. There we go. Plastic is better than steel because we don't want to break that battery terminal. So now it's seated correctly. 10mm socket or wrench, and let's snug this up. Make sure there's no movement. Good to go. When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.